Okay guys, this is Obergefeiter Heisler and Heer Captain from YouTube. On this section of the video, we're going to be discussing some equipment and some other clothing items as well as awards that were a part of World War II and very much so a part of history. So let's start with the main table. What we have here first is an example of a German senior officer's uniform. Now I know there are some slight inaccuracies in here. I just put it together with random items that would have composed of the standard German officer's uniform. So as I said before, when you became an officer, junior or senior, you would have silver pebbled buttons. Well, that is the case here. One inaccuracy of this, because this is an East German uniform, by the way, I just set it up as a World War II German officer's, which it is fairly similar. The piping on the cuffs, which is white here, which means infantry. In World War II, the Germans' uniforms would not really have piping on the cuffs unless it was full dress, which would be the Waffenrock, or a semi-dress walking out uniform may have included the white piping or whatever color unit or division you were in. When we move up forward, we have a ribbon bar. Ribbon bars were pretty much would reflect the ribbons on the awards you would earn, but they would, how can I put this? Condense it to a very small ribbon so it can be represented. Some men wore their ribbon bars in combat, some didn't. You certainly could wear them, but you'd probably get them ruined. But some did and some didn't. When we move over here, this silver cording here that moves up is called a sharpshooting lanyard. And the other inaccuracy on this uniform is when you became an officer, you would no longer wear the sharpshooting award. Whether you earned it or not, you just didn't wear it a part of your uniform anymore. Only enlisted men, which would be, corporals, privates, and sergeants, NCOs would wear this. But this is the sharpshooting award, and you have the oak leaves and the swords, and you crossed, the swords crossed, and this is a higher ranking award. There were different degrees of sharpshooting awards that were awarded, and this is a little higher degree of an award. And here we have an officer's example breast eagle. Now the other inaccuracy on here is this is an Army Heer uniform, and this eagle has a bronzish, goldish tone. That would not be correct for this style uniform. However, it does have a bottle green backing, which would be correct. Moving to the middle, this is one of the most important awards and respected awards in World War II. This is called the Knight's Cross. And this was an extremely difficult award to earn because it required a very high degree of bravery. And what you're seeing here is a different example. There were different classes. This is oak leaves with swords. And the only other class higher than this would have been oak leaves with swords and diamonds. Yes, this medal was awarded for, this award was awarded for very extreme bravery, but to meet the requirements of this award, you actually had to earn the second class Iron Cross and the first class as well in order to get the Knight's Cross class. But it was a very respected award, and whether they were your enemy or not, you had to respect people that have earned this reward because it was a very difficult award to earn, and you have definitely risked your life in order to receive this award. Now you move up to the collar tabs. These are officer-style collar tabs, and these are inaccurate because these are metallic. These are metal. In the middle is infantry piping, which is white. Officer collar tabs were better quality than enlisted, naturally. Most officer items were. And they were a lot thicker. They had to be mounted on the back because machine sewing would have been very difficult, so they had to be mounted. And then we move up here, and you have the shoulder boards. This is also a post-war example. This isn't pre-war or during World War II shoulder board. And this is also piped with white for infantry. And this type of braiding was senior officer. This would have been equivalent to a major in the United States. However, in German, it's pronounced Herr Major, which stood for major. And that is a senior grade officer. Otherwise, a very good example of a uniform here. Now we move over here, and I have an original World War II era. This is called a gas mask canister. And the company described here is called Aue. And if you see, it says Luftschutz, which we know was derived from the Air Force branch the Luftschutz was a part of. And what this was is you kept your gas mask inside of it in case you ever needed to retrieve it in case of mustard gas, but gas chemicals weren't nearly as used as in World War I. And here we have an example of a helmet. I already described to you the three types of helmets mainly used in World War II. Well, this is a World War I model. I believe it's a 1916 or 1918 model. And the thing about this was it was a lot larger helmet shell. And some of these World War I models were used in World War II. However, they were usually used for parade purposes, or sometimes even in combat, soldiers would be wearing models from World War I. And yes, I have applied World War II decals on here for it. Okay, now we move down and we get to the medals and some other things that were a part of World War II that I'll start talking about. First, I'll start up here. And yes, I've already identified myself earlier as Obergefreiter. However, my chevron is not on my sleeve yet, but this is it. This is an Obergefreiter chevron, which may be compared with a corporal ranking in the United States at that time. This is called Tress, and this is silver. This is early war. Later in the war, it was subdued, which meant it wasn't as shiny. But this is early war, so it's shiny Tress. Then you move over here, and these are junior officer shoulder boards, piped with white on the edges for infantry. And these have a more silver metallic thread than a dull wool. These were made with silver thread instead of wool. And the equivalent rank of these to America would be second lieutenant. In German, it would be pronounced Herr Leutnant, which was a junior grade officer. And there were things on here called pips, which would designate a higher level of an officer. For instance, if there was one gold pip on here, it would go from Herr Leutnant to Oberleutnant. And if you had two gold pips on each, it would go from Oberleutnant to Herr Hauptmann, which meant captain. Okay, over here, I'm sure you all recognize this diamond-style swastika within it is a Hitler Youth dagger. This is a reproduction, but it is a very nice example, and you have a very nice enameled diamond with the swastika. A very well-made reproduction. Hitler Youth members would use these almost at all times, or they would have them on their belts. And they were carried into combat. As we know, a lot of younger children were fighting for Germany at that time by force, by the way. But then again, some of them also felt compelled to fight for Germany, so they did it on their own. But they would have had these with them in combat if they were using them. Okay, now we have an interesting thing down here. This is a leatherette case. And this is actually a denazified example, and as you can see, there's a style cross here, and in the middle it seems to be scribbled out. After World War II was over, the Allied armies would go around collecting German militaria, etc., and they would be destroying them. They would also remove the swastikas off. It was called denazification.